And Business Insider magazine recently polled a group of registered voters. I referred to this earlier in the show, but I really want to drill into this right now. The magazine was asking people for their preferences on 3 different congressional plans that have been floated to help the nation avoid damage from the looming sequester. And what the poll found was that when voters didn't know which plan was whose, the policies that most voters preferred were those offered up by the Progressive Caucus in the House of Representatives. More than half of the people who were polled favored the Balancing Act plan, which is proposed by the Congressional Progressive Caucus. And shockingly, 47% of Republicans polled preferred the House's progressive approach, or at least the House Progressive Caucus's progressive approach, instead of the across-the-board cuts being proposed by the Republican congressional leaders. According to Business Insider, the results show that not only is America not a centrist country, like is commonly believed, not a center-right country, but that the policy ideas most attractive to American voters are those that are most often put on the back burner, getting little attention and virtually no publicity from the corporate media. Or to put it simply, very few Americans like the ideas and policies, proposals coming out of the Republican Party and from a few of the conservatives. It's clear that Americans know which ideas will actually help the country and disagree with the bizarre Republican position that only those things that help the billionaire class and corporate America are going to help working people. You know, they say that history repeats itself. And it seems to me like this is an example of it. Consider the state of American politics in 1948, when Harry Truman, who had been president for, 3 years, I believe, at that point in time, he was the vice president when FDR died, and he became president in my recollection is 45, 46. Had to be, yeah. In any case, in 45. And here in 1948, he's accepting the Democratic nomination for president of the United States. Here's what Harry Truman said in his famous acceptance speech, speaking about the reason why Americans prefer democratic ideas over bizarre Republican beliefs.
The people know the Democratic Party is the people's party, and the Republican Party is the party of special interest, and it always has been and always will be.
There you go. Truman went on to list the accomplishments of the Democratic Party at that time. He highlighted increased investments in the agriculture industry, increases in wages and salary. Remember, I said earlier, we used to have different metrics than just the stock market. Increases in wages and salaries, and massive increases in the GDP. Speaking about these boosts in the American economy, Truman told the crowd at the convention in Philadelphia this.
These benefits have been spread to all the people because it's the business of the Democratic Party to see that the people get a fair share of these things.
Yeah, after highlighting how the Democratic Party had helped Americans and worked wonders to improve the country as a whole, Truman then proceeded to list how Republicans had failed the country in the 80th Congress, that he'd been doing battle with, by the way, for the past 2 years, and how Republicans always ignored the well-being of average working people. He said this.
Ever since its inception, that party has been under the control of special privilege, and they concretely proved it in the 80th Congress. They proved it by the things they did to the people and not for them. They proved it by the things they failed to do.
Things included refusing to act on, and Truman went through the list in his speech, refusing to act on a housing bill, refusing to enact moderate legislation to promote labor management harmony, tearing apart the Department of Labor. Republicans in the 80th Congress refused to even pass an increase in the minimum wage. They refused to fund more public education in schools. They refused to pass any sort of comprehensive health program. And more importantly, they refused to fix the tax code, but instead passed more tax breaks on for the very rich. Speaking of the Republican refusal to fix the tax code, here's what Truman had to say.
Now, everybody would like to have low taxes. But we must reduce the national debt in times of prosperity. And when tax relief can be given, it ought to go to those who need it most and not go to those who need it least, as this Republican rich man's tax bill did when they passed it over my veto on the third try.
our public schools, to trying to tear apart labor, keeping the wallets of the wealthy elite padded. You know, I mean, just look at this. Truman's 80th Congress and President Obama's 113th Congress, same thing. And in 1948, in the election of 1948, after Truman gave that speech, the American people realized how little the Republican Party had done for the country and how much that party cared about the interests of the wealthiest Americans. And Truman ended up winning the presidential election in 48 because he told the truth about the Republican Party. But perhaps even more importantly, the Democrats took back the House of Representatives. They took back Congress because Truman spoke so bluntly. The Democrats' win in the House of Representatives was so overwhelming and so long-lasting that Republicans did not take back the House for over 40 years. As Truman closed his acceptance speech, he spoke of the 80th Congress and the Republican inaction.
Now, what that worst 80th Congress does in this special session will be the test. The American people will not decide by listening to mere words or by reading a mere platform. They'll decide on the record as it has been written. And in the record is the stark truth that the battle lines in 1948 are the same as they were back in 1932 when the nation lay prostrate and helpless as a result of Republican misrule and inaction.
Oh, like I said, history repeats itself. The battle lines are drawn pretty much the same as they were in 48 and in 32. Millions of Americans are struggling to survive, to get a proper education. The very rich are making out like bandits, all thanks to Republican, what Harry Truman called misrule and inaction. You're going to see it start tomorrow with the sequester. If the Democrats of today would speak more and more like Harry Truman did, we could get this country back on track. You need to get out there and share the word with others. There was a piece in that speech where Harry Truman just went through the list of things that the Republicans refused to do. It runs about 2 minutes long. And, I'm going to have to dig that out and play it for you. I thought it was so cool. Harry Truman just nailed it. He just absolutely nailed it. And he says, I called for an increase in the minimum wage. The Republicans did nothing. I called for help for housing. The Republicans did nothing. I called for, and he just goes through the list. And the same thing is happening right now. And as Ellen Ratner just reported, the sequester is going to stand. The layoffs are going to begin tomorrow. The economy is going to go in the tank, and all these Republicans who have been telling us for years now, if you just cut government spending, then the private sector will prosper and everything will be wonderful because government will be out of the way, and everybody in America is going to see that the Republicans have been lying to them for 32 years. We're all going to get to see it. Even Republicans are now acknowledging that Republicans have been lying because they're saying, it's Obama's sequester. The damage is going to come from Obama. Well, hey, wait a minute. If Reaganomics is right, if cutting government leads to prosperity, then the sequester should give us prosperity, shouldn't it? We'll see. And I think all Americans are going to know. This is a very interesting time. Keep a close eye on what's going on. 15 minutes past the hour.